The argument that you can't do full self-driving with vision only is a illogical argument. Okay, humans have been doing full self-driving with vision only for, well, I guess 100 years, since the car was invented. So it's a fact. It's a hard fact. It's a proven fact that you can drive a car with vision only. People who are deaf can drive cars. People with one eye can drive cars. So we know for a fact, no debate, that you can drive a car with vision only, without LIDAR. What we don't know, the true argument, the true debate, is whether or not Tesla can replicate the portion of the human brain that is required for driving. That's the debate. So if you want to have an intelligent debate about full self-driving, instead of debating, that vision doesn't work, the real debate is, I don't believe Tesla can make an AI that's as capable as a human brain to do vision-only driving. That's a 100% valid, logical argument. Now, I don't agree with it. I think it's proof right here. So then why the big push for LIDAR? Why is everyone so hung up on LIDAR? The reason being is LIDAR requires significantly less intelligence to process the signal. LIDAR is a crutch. LIDAR is self-driving for dumb computers. I don't know how else to put it. If you're not capable of making an intelligent AI, yeah, you need LIDAR. And it makes sense. Rivian just announced that they're going to add LIDAR, and that makes perfect sense for Rivian, because Rivian doesn't have the capability to make a system as intelligent as Tesla does. Now, it's obvious that the AI is going to get to a point, Tesla's proving it right here, that AI can be as intelligent as a human in terms of driving with vision only. So the fact that Rivian's putting a LIDAR in their car just proves that they're behind the curve, quite a bit behind the curve. So the question becomes, well, what if you want to be better than human? What if you want to be a superhuman driver? And that's where a physical sensor can make things more probable, more possible. So, God damn it, my stupid soap. Why do I do that? I'm an instructor, and I did presentations. Actually, I did presentations on computer vision for years at conferences everywhere, and I always thought I was a good speaker, but actually listening to myself on the videos, I realized I do a lot of very unprofessional things. Anyway, I'm working on it. The sensor for full self-driving. So for any system, I don't even need to use full self-driving, but for any system, you want the sensors to complement each other. That's the goal of a system design. Having a redundant sensor is not enough. The systems actually need to complement each other. So, for example, in Tesla, they have redundant cameras. For instance, there's 2 cameras in the front, and each camera's overlap. But that's not enough. And LIDAR doesn't complement vision, because in the physical world, both LIDAR and vision measure the same wavelength of light. So all the problems that you run into with vision in terms of the physical medium, which is air, you have the same problem with LIDAR, because the wavelengths are so close. So for example, here you can see there's a lot of moisture in the air. I wonder what I don't know how to measure the amount of moisture in the air. I don't know if this does that. But there's obviously a lot of moisture in the air. You can see it. These windows aren't fogged or anything like that. So and you can see that there's, it's obstructing the view a little bit. But obviously the camera system has no trouble, and obviously our eyes have no trouble with it. The thing is that those same water molecules that are in the air that are causing the light to reflect, reflect and refract and scatter. Scatter is the right word. So the same water molecules in the air that cause the light to scatter cause the laser to scatter in LIDAR because they're in the same wavelength. The absorption of the light, because of the wavelength is close to the size of the water droplet, the absorption between LIDAR and visible light is about the same. Although LIDAR is infrared, so it's a slightly higher frequency, it's still very close to the visual range. So all the problems that vision has, LIDAR has. Now there are tricks you can use in LIDAR, continuous wave LIDAR. There are some tricks you can do to limit that, but they're just tricks. The physical medium still is the same. You can't change that. But if you use something that has a different wavelength, something that's a couple of orders of magnitude in difference, then you can actually propagate through the medium, which is again air, differently. So now you have a sensor that complements. So what is a couple of orders of magnitude away from the wavelength of light? Radar. Now I know what people are going to say, but you can't navigate a boat into a harbor with radar. Yeah, that's old radar, okay? That's ancient radar. The kind of radar I'm talking about is what's called 4D imaging radar. 4D imaging radar uses something called a phased array to create what is essentially a camera that uses radar frequencies instead of light frequencies. Now, I say essentially a camera because the resolution is not the same. The resolution capabilities of 4D imaging radar are improving all the time, but they're not as good as even a cheap camera. But what it essentially lets you do is it lets you see in a completely different wavelength. And it's active, so it actually sends out a signal and pings back. So what you can do is you can use that vision system. Let's just call it a vision system because that's what it is. You can use that vision system for when the system is not right for regular light. So, for instance, if it's really foggy and the medium, which is the air, is not ideal for regular light because it's absorbing and scattering all the regular light. Well, then you kick into this 4D imaging radar. Now, 4D imaging radar has been around for a while, and the military has been using it forever for this very reason, because it works so well in situations where light doesn't. The problem is it's been too expensive. And up until just within the last year or two, it's just been way too expensive. And now it's finally starting to come down. What's happening is the compute has come down enough where, because that's the real problem with 4D imaging radar. It's extremely compute intensive. And the compute's come down. The capabilities of our chips have gone up enough, and the price has come down enough where the compute is becoming more capable, and you can get into a decent price. So the thing about 4D imaging radar is there's no moving parts. It's a MIMO antenna, and it's a radar, so it's active, so it sends out a signal and bounces back. And like I've been saying, it's in a completely different wavelength range than light, so it sees where light can't. And I think that is the technology, and I don't only think this, my investment portfolio reflects this, so I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I think that's the technology that's going to win long run. I think that Tesla is going to release robo-taxis, release full self-driving, and I think all that's going to happen, and it's going to work perfectly in 95%. I'm just pulling a number out of my ass, but in most cases, it's going to work fine. It's working fine right here. But I think that they're going to come up with sort of the next gen, and I bet you it's AI5. Where they do incorporate 4D imaging radar. Because, here's what gets interesting. The Starlink antenna system, and the Starlink system actually uses a phased array antenna and uses phased array technology, which means Tesla has a lot of experience with the very technology that they need to use 4D imaging radar. And in fact, they're using a 4D imaging radar in the cabin to detect people. So if I put my hand up here for a little while, oh sure, now it's not going to do it. See, normally it does it automatically. I'll make my hand look like a head. Yeah, it's not going to do it. Okay, normally it would detect my hand. Oh, they use 4D imaging radar in the cabin, and they're using that to detect the placement of the people, and more importantly, they're using that to detect if there's a baby in the back. And the 4D imaging radar became mandatory basically by the requirements. Cabin 4D imaging radar became mandatory because the requirements say that you have to be able to detect a baby even if they're swaddled in a blanket. And you can't do that optically, you have to do that with 4D imaging radar. So, go with the so again. Damn it, I'm going to pinch myself every time I say it. So they have the technology. They have the technology, they have the capabilities, and I truly believe that the AI5 or maybe the AI6, primarily the robo-taxis, are going to have 4D imaging radar. And you know, all of this is backed up by Waymo. Waymo put out a release 2 years ago that said that sure, they use LIDAR, but when it becomes foggy, they turn off the LIDAR and use 4D imaging radar. So this isn't scandalous, right? This is state of the art, and anyone who's actually in the industry knows this, which is why LIDAR companies are going bankrupt. LIDAR is not the future. The Rivian announcement was to anyone who's in the industry and to anyone who understands the system. The fact that Rivian's specifically put out that they're using LIDAR, that is a signal to the Reddit crowd. That is not a real technological signal, because if they had said 4D imaging radar, then that would be exciting and that would be something to watch. But the fact that Rivian said they're depending on LIDAR, that just tells me that they're going for a stock bump. They're going after the Reddit crowd, the uninformed. They're obviously not serious, and I think that that's a shame. Because I like Rivian, but I'm never buying a car without self-driving. I mean, this is just, once you've done this, she's probably 9,000 miles now on self-driving. I can't even imagine owning. I had to drive my son's car, which is a Chevy Volt, obviously, with no self-driving, yesterday, and I hate it. I just hate driving now. Okay, so here's the car, and you can see this is again AI3 being a little hesitant. And here's one of the things that AI3 can't do, but you can see it's going to try to do it. If you look at the blue line, it wants to back up. The model is telling it to back up. Unfortunately, the Tesla engineers don't allow it to back up. So I have to manually back up. So we're going to just go ahead and do this. Now what I can do, oh, wait a minute. Let's see, I can. There we go. I can do this. Let's see. Wait, why is it? Why is it? There we go. I can't do that. There we go. I've been seeing a lot of Equinoxes at this supercharger over here. The other day there were 3 of them. And what sucks is if you notice... Oh wait, he's not even plugged in. Oh yeah, he's... Holy shit. Yeah, see, he's... Wait a minute, what? Oh, he's not even plugged in. Why is he... Yeah, I've seen a lot of Equinoxes here at this charging station here. Anyway, okay, so that's the drive FSD in my AI4.